Hi, Subcourse Edition TR069 Edition 3, loading and blocking, bracing on railway cars. Introduction. If you were planning to title your 4-year slate, what questions must you be able to answer before you contact the building materials dealers? Obviously, you must know the size of the area to be covered that needed. Then you need to know the dimensions of the place of the slate, how many will take to do the job. Armed with figures, you get in the car, drive into town. The dealer looks you over the list and asks you, will the floor support all the added the weight? And the question had never occurred to you. The transportation officer shipping equipment rail cannot afford to overlook such questions as to stake as the lives of his men and security of the shipment, the safe use of the rail equipment, regulations on securing the loads of railroad transportation, remind the shipper of all limitations has must reckon before the first vehicle rolls into the place on the flat car. Dimension on the rail car has much weight on it, carries the obvious limitations, the less obvious restriction on the load on the car in relation to the car brakes, wheels, trucks, and wheel arrangements. Then, two, the railroad, bridges, tunnels, and other structures along with the right of the way, necessary light, limit of height and width of load. All these are spelled out in the Association of American Railroads and or repeated, modified by Army regulations. Be carefully observing the published rules. The public shipper ensures the proper precautions that have been taken against the foreseeable mishaps to men material. Chapter 1, Loading Rules and Regulations. Loading 1-1. One killed, 3 injured in the freight car collision. Reads a recent newspaper headline. The article recounted the tragic deadly details of how loaded a westbound train had shifted in transit following an accident main track. Here's how it happened. An eastbound freight had approaching the westbound on the other track of about 45 miles an hour. An eastbound engineer noticed sparks flying from the oncoming train, though one of the engineer noticed the spark flying from the under the oncoming train. The one of the cars might have derailed, seeing that immediately moved the handle of the automatic brake valve to the emergency position. As the train passes, lading protruding from the south side of the car, the west side train is stuck on the north side of the diesel electric unit. The first 16 cars on the eastbound brake in one of the eastbound diesel electric units was killed. Brakeman was killed in the eastbound diesel electric unit was killed. The other crew members on the locomotives were injured. The accident report stated the lading had been secured and prescribed by the Association of American Railroads rules. The accident probably wouldn't have occurred. The Association of American Railroads describes the individual items, including Department of defense items that are to be loaded, blocked, and braced on the railway cars. Understanding the AAR rules, you must first know something about the railway equipment itself. Section 1 of the chapter examines the flat car construction design, since the flat car is commonly used in shipping large items. Throughout the text, the reference is made in the commercial flat cars in the United States. Section 2 introduces you to the basic rules of the AAR and application of the Army regulations. Section 1, Flat Car Construction and Design. 1-2, asking how many 5-ton trucks can fit on a flat car, a little like asking how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, unless you know the platform dimension, weight carrying capacity, capacity of the car. The section gets the loading off the right of the foot, discussing the varieties of flat cars available for shippers, military freight, as well as their construction size, rated capacity, load limits, and vehicle carrying capacities. 1-3, components of a typical flat car. Notice none of the workhorse rail service capability of transportation, wide variety of large, heavy items of flat cars, essential platform wheels. Flat cars are generally fish belly or non-fish belly, designed on showing in the sketches. The main structural components of flat car are trucks containing a wheels, underframe connection trucks, deck, and deck of load carrying on-serve items. Figure 1-1 pictures a typical flat car shown in 3 main components. Figure 1-2 exposes the car's underframe. Figure 1-3 the truck itself. Each flat car element is described briefly in subparagraphs that follows. The additional brake wheel is described. Although not a primary structural member, the brake wheel plays a significant part in loading the flat car, therefore important in the shipper of military freight. You see the fish belly flat car and the non-fish belly flat car. A truck is seen. The truck wheel units include the components, axle, springs, frames, in addition to 2 and sometimes more pairs of wheels. Note that the axle is the axle strength with the determinations of the total allowable weight of the flat car lading on the rails. Weight limits interesting. The military shippers are explained later in this section. Notice their side. The truck, the deck, the underframe, the brake wheel, and on the side you got the deck, side pockets, body bolster, brake wheel, underframe, and truck. The brake components of the axle spring frames, in addition to the 2 sometimes more pairs of wheels. Notice the axle, its axle strength are determined as the total allowable weight of the car and lading of the rails. Weight limits of the interest of military shippers explained later in this section. Notice the side. Figure 1-1, typical flat car. 1-2, flat car disassembled. Figure 1-3, typical truck, bearing, bolster, truck, side bearings, 2, each of the provided stability during the transit, particularly a curve. The center plate joins the truck on the underframe, holding the car together, providing the pivoting point of the truck when the car is taking the curve. The underframe. The frame of the work underframe is shown in Figure 1-2. Foundation of flat car receives the buffering, pulling stress carries on the weight of the deck and lading. The long members of either the side of each car's side of the side sills, long member of the center paralleling side sill. The center sill short members are end of the sills shown in the switch of the below. Some flat cars have 2 center sills as shown in the underframe in Figure 1-2. Stake pockets are attached to the side pockets, side sills, so support stakes and temporary side of the above deck. The transverse immediate member of each of the end, called the body bolster, contains a projection of the fit down the center of Figure 1-4. Truck components, plate receptacles on truck, and you can see the center plate in the middle of the truck sketched in Figure 1-4. Here's the picture of the truck. It goes from the top, 12 o'clock, side bearing, axle, center plate, brake lever, brake hanger, brake side, wheel, rim, brake beam, brake pin, bottom conduction rod, journal rod, side frame, side spring plank, coil spring, bolsters. Down from the bottom picture, under frame, from 12 o'clock to clockwise. Center sill, cross barrier, body bolster, side bearings, drafting gear pocket, end seal, diagonal braces, stringer support, side sills, and stake pocket. C. The deck of the platform flat car load rests on the deck. Normally constructed in tongue groove and wood plank for a solid fit. The deck is secured in an underframe. Figures 1 and 1-2 to illustrate the deck clearly. D. The brake wheel located on one end of each car is the brake wheel that operates the handbrake. Although the typical flat car in Figure 1-1 shows the brake wheel under the side of the deck, the more common position is upright, as the sketch is extending above the level of the deck. The brake wheel is used in secure holds the car siding. Much of the braking car keeps in the moving out once in parked. In some yard of the road operations, handbrake is used to slow down and stop the car when it is in motion. A brake wheel can be lowered, removed, and loading in the flat car easier. A loading rule specifically centers clearance around the brake wheel to make sure it is accessible at all times. More about clearance and given with the car load rules and discussed in Section 2. 1-4, the truck center. Since loading rules are expressed in terms of the location of the truck center, it is important you understand the terms means acquire simply the truck center in the center of the truck regardless of the number of wheels. How to find the center is discussed in the following subparagraphs. A four-wheel truck, the center of the bolster is in the center of the truck. The chalk placed on the side of directly above the point of that help you find the spot on the loading flat car. The sketch shows how much the center of the four-wheel truck. Six wheel. The six wheel is center of the six wheel is the center of the middle axle as in stretch here. The center casting accurately method locating the truck center is finding the center casting and then the place where the underframe joins truck and identified in Figure 1-4 the center plate. 1-5, the weight limits. Although no standard dimensions from the commercial car following the described flat cars commonly used in railroad, the United States, the official railway equipment register should consulted for the description of specific cars to be used. On information stenciled on flat cars, 3 items give the military shipper essential data on the above about the car is to be load and capacity, load limit, and light weight. Capacity in short tons and platform dimensions foots approximately. A 40-ton short-ton car is the length of 40 feet with 9 feet. A 50-ton short-ton car is the length of 45 with 9-inch width. 40 foot long and 9 feet wide. They're all 40, 50, and 70 are 9 foot long, 9 foot wide. The 70 foot is 50 foot in length approximately. Capacity: suppose you are a car marked at a capacity of 100,000 ton. What does it mean to you? Simply, this is the capacity marking the car, the place of the tonnage classage. Capacity in this instance nominal is expressed in multiple units of 1,000 pounds based on the weight of the car itself and total allowable weight of the car and load. Capacity 100,000 means that the car is a 50-ton class. Capacity does not tell you the heavier your load be any more than nominal rating of the 5-ton truck. A 10,000 pound limit on the payload to 10,000 pounds. As you may know, a so-called 5-ton truck can carry more than 5 tons on the highway. A load limit. The abbreviation load limit, LDLMT, with number after expressed, is the maximum load limit in pounds of the car designed to carry with an endangering car load without endangering car load. The notion LDLTM load limit, 1,018 and 600 pounds of a flat car means the car can carry the load up to 118,600 pounds. The load limit plus the weight of the car described in subparagraph 1.5c, the lightweight, equals the total allowable weight on the rails mentioned in paragraph 1.3 as dependent on the axle strength. See the lightweight, the abbreviation lightweight, LTWT, the number of 4 pounds refers to the weight of the car itself. The lightweight, without a load, clean, standing still, the scales and uncoupled at each end. 1.6, the height and weight limits. Height and width limits. Each equipment prepared on restricted rail transportation, United States main lines, standard for 56.5-inch gauge must not exceed the following height width limits. Notice the higher the load, the narrow it must be. This allows the tunnel overhead of the obstruction found in all railway lines. Thus, a load 9 foot 7 inches highly can be used on a 10 foot 8 inch be as wide as 10 foot 8 inches, whereas the load 11 foot by 11 inches highly can 11 foot by 11 inches high cannot exceed 7 foot in width. Although the height in the figures provided the shipping and flat cars, the limits of particular railroads varying from them determined whenever the move is planned. Delays on safety, loads, damaged equipment must be avoided in checking in advance individual lines. Although the height and width figures provide the general guideline, shipping items and flat cars limits of particular railroads varying from them must be determined whenever the move is planned. Delays, unsafe load, damage to equipment must be avoided checking in advance in individual lines. The height and load measured from the top of the car platform is 9 foot 7 inches. The width of the load will take with the height of the 9 foot 7 inches. The width of the load can be 10 to 8 inches long. 1.5 half the width of the load is 5/4 of an inch. This does for centering, measured for centering line of the track. 10 foot 1 inch can carry a width of the load 10 foot by the 1/2 of the width of the load is 5 foot. 11 inches by the height of 11 foot 11 inches is a width load of 7 feet, where the half width load of measured from the right center of the track is 3 foot 6 inches. 1/7 vehicle carrying capacity. Note that trying to answer how many 5-ton trucks can fit on a flat car. Basically, that's what you must know. Dimensions, weight of the 5-ton cargo truck, including any cargo truck, length, width of the flat car deck, load limit of the flat car. Note all 5-ton cargo trucks are also modeled different in size, weight, look, and dimension. The two examples. Note that the example 76 inches are longer than the example A, and each of the higher example B is over 4,000 pounds heavier example than A. A few inches or pounds can make the difference between go and no-go on a flat car. Examples are illustrated on a sketch of the flat on the left. Example A is a few inches or pound. Length is 297 inches. Width is 98 inches. Height is 117.8 inches. Empty weight of 19,231. Example B is longer in length, by about 76 inches by 373.3 inches. Same width of inches. Height is also 1 inch over higher. But because of the length of inches, A can carry. Example B carries more poundage by 4,000 pounds at 23,349 feet pounds. All right, you have the height of your truck here, your width of 98 inches, 117.8, 19,200. This is example A and expressed on the top. Look back at the flat cars described in paragraph 1.5, taking into account of the height and the width and limits of paragraph 1.6. Try to place example A cargo on the cargo truck on one or more of the cars. At the sketch that demonstrates the weight, height, and the width of the load, and no problem any flat cars listed in paragraph 1.5. Going on the length of width, and you find the example A of the truck is transportable in 40 to 45 feet cars. These two of the trucks transported either 50 or 60-foot cat are one behind the other. As you see a 9-foot flat car with a 9-foot 10 inches off, and with a 10-foot span and another 10 and 1 inch height. You see the 40-foot long 40-ton flat car with one car on it, and a 40-foot the 50-ton car with a flat car on it. In A, you see two parks on a 60-foot long flat car with a 10-foot 6 span. You see two cargo trucks. In 8, you see examples of Jeeps stacked up on top of the little Jeep Wranglers in B and C. 1.8 summary. Generally found in fish belly, non-fish belly design. The flat car three basic components: trucks, underframe platform on the deck, trucks with two or more pairs of wheels that ride on the rails, brake elements, axles centered on the top of each of the truck, a center plate casting that provides receptacle for complementary fitting of the underframe joint trucks, and the underframe, the skeleton to which the deck is attached, takes the buffering, pulling the stress applied to the flat car, bears the flat weight of the platform load, can cause primarily the made of the wood of planking. The deck provides the surface upon the load rests, located at one of the end of the car, the brake wheel, which is uprated. The hand brakes, the later is used to hold the car while it's standing still. Sometimes it's slowed down and to stop it when it's moving. Truck centers are simply in the center of the truck because the loading rules are more frequently referenced. The truck center is important to know how to find the center of the four-wheel truck is midway between the two wheels at the side of the car, middle truck of the truck bolster. A six-wheel, the center axle is the mid-wheel on one side of the car, and placing a chalk mark over the side sill above the truck center, it makes the center obvious to those doing the loading. Commercial flat cars do not have standard dimensions of it. They have one car and other. Still, flat cars are commonly used in the United States in 40, 50, and 70-ton class, named the capacities ranging from 40 to 60 feet long, all approximately 9 feet wide. These items are stenciled inside of the flat car of particular value, shipper and capacity, load limit, and light. Okay, once again back. I'm sorry about the minute break. 40 to 60 foot long, all approximately 9 feet. The three items stenciled on the side sill. The flat car particular value of the shipper capacity, load light limit of the car of these loads limited in most important states. Payload of the pounds in particular car. Lightweight is the weight of the car itself. Capacity gives the tonnage class of the car. Because of the limits of the tunnel, other obstructions, restrictions necessary placed on the height and width of loads, it is possible to specifically limits unrestricted on the main rail lines of the United States. Sitting lowest overhead narrowest passes to be found on any of these lines. In general, you know the dimensions, weight of the car that you're shipping, size, load limits, flat cars to be used. You can determine the flat car accommodate the load, how many that the items have been transported in a single flat car. As you will see in the next section, the dimension, weight of the load, and the determination whether the load shipped in a particular flat car, special rules, regulations, clearances around the brake wheel, location of load on the car, blocking, bracing, and load other than essentials, all affecting the transportability of your shipment on the flat car. 1.9, Section 2, the Army and AAR loading requirements. The general, the prospect of having the Army equipment of the railway cars future time, the alarming to you. Need not be regulations spell out to the smallest detail everything you will need to know to send your shipment safely to destination. You must know such as regulations as what they cover. The section identification of the basic publications show that how to use them. 110, responsible for the loading, the proficiency, and the railway car loading, the commanding responsibility. The Army Regulations Z2. Z2010 preparation to oversee movement of the unit. POM makes it one of the reason underscored of the needed effective car loading. The help of the preventive damage of the cargo. They avoid the costly delays, damage shipments create that protect the government, railroad property, employees, the car loader, shippers, and directly responsible load of the railroad cars. Whether the unit, the commander, the movement officers, installation, transportation officer, cargo handler, the train man, other shippers, military freight, you may be directly involved in loading and blocking, bracing equipment on railway cars, continuing emphasizing the mobility makes it necessary for every officer to have general knowledge in that important subject. 111. Associations of American Railroads. The Association of American Railroads established the rules of the foundation, properly loading, blocking, bracing equipment on the railroad cars. Without saving the railway cars cannot be loaded accordingly to the whim of the convenience of each shipper. The AAR rules are based on the experience of the charge necessary to accommodate the new items, new railway equipment. Among the many of the books, pamphlets, supplements on the subject, the AAR rules governing the load commodities on the top of the cars, particularly in the valuable in the military shipper. The section 1 of the particular publication contains general rules. Section 6 gives the rules of loading the Department of Defense material on the top of the cars. For the general rules, Part 1 of them are given in the next 5 paragraphs. Following these rules of Section 6 are discussed. 112, Rule Inspection and Compliance. Essentially, Rule 1 requires the cars to be inspected originating in the carrier and the C&O railroad, for example, either before they place their loading on the loading points to see if they are fit in the intended loads or to carry them safely to the destination. The shipper, such as the transportation officer, must comply with the drawing specifications, any applicable AAR rules for the items to be shipped. After the loading, the shipper may inspect the shipment to see the properly tending shipment of the carrier to inspect the shipments. The proper loading. Rule 1 also states that the shipper must do to ship items not covered in this rule and 113 rule. 113 Rule 2 brake wheel clearance. The Rule 2 defines illustrates necessary brake wheel clearance. A car also point out the wheel brake may be removed to make loading easier. The clearance around the brake wheel must not less than shown in the sketch. Based on the AAR rule, clearance should be increased as much as consisting properly locating. The handbrake may be removed from all but one car when a number of cars are combined for over long shipping extended to more than one car. The clearance should be 6 inches behind 6 inches behind on both sides of the brake wheel, except for shown in the loading plans of tanks in similar shapes in one piece. B, 4 inches underneath the brake wheel and 12 inches minimum from end to end. From the end of the car extending to the center of the brake wheel, the nearest to the side of the car, and 6 feet above the car floor. 114 Rule 4: maximum load weight in single cars. The weight of the load of the car must not exceed the load limit stenciled on the car. The weight of the material loaded on between the two centers of the end of the car must not exceed 30% of the stenciled load limit. The 15% of the end each end of the example. The stencil of the car load limit of the for 104,000 pounds. You may need a load of 15,600 pounds at each end of the flat car. This means is between the truck center and the end of each of the car. The load of the length is less than between the truck centers. The established the percentage of stencil load weight in the car can be unless the car owner designated otherwise. The official railway equipment register established with the percentage different from the fish belly, non-fish belly cars, flat cars. When loaded, the laps are staggered of the truck between the truck center, covering the full length of the car. This does not exceed the stencil's nominal capacity of the car length. Percentage shown in the following subparagraphs do not apply. 72,000 pounds and 15,000 on the end at the center sills. Fish belly. Now, a fish belly design gives a greater carrying capability than a non-fish belly. Load exceeding 18 feet less between the truck centers can equal 75% of the stencil limit. As a sketch of the shows the load longer load is longer than 18 feet, then it will be 100%. Less than 18 feet is 17%. 18 feet or over 100% truck centers. Non-fish belly percentage of non-fish belly centers are lower than the fish belly. Lengthwise load of the can equally 66% of the stencil load limit of the load, measuring 10 to the 24 feet of the 17.5%, 24 and the stencil 24 feet still located between the truck center, located in 90% of the limit of the load, extending between the truck center of the center with a weight of 100% of the load limit. 115 rules in E center of the gravity. Although not a separate rule, the 4E emphasizes that because of the significant shipper, the center of the gravity figures importantly in the load carrying regardless design. The problem is to balance out the load in the car, lining up the load of the center of the gravity and the center of the car closely than possible. Perhaps you think that some of the military equipment cannot be balanced in the center of the flat car. For example, a crane of the boom to each of the load are properly balanced in the car. The AAR established rules for loading limits not centered of the car whose length is less than the distance between the car truck and the center. The diagram of the next page shows the location of the CG relationship to the ratio of loading limit, load weight limit. For example, the load weight is 75% of the stencil load limit, and CG must not be placed closer to the truck center than 1/3 of the distance between the truck center. Again, if the shipment weighs 87% of the load limit in the center of the gravity could be situated anywhere in the middle of 1/7 of the deck between the truck centers. Notice if the load limit increases farther than the load center of the gravity must be truck center, where the center of the gravity load weighting of 87% of the load limit may be placed anywhere in the center of 1/7 of the deck between the truck centers. The center of gravity 90% load limit in the middle of the 1/10. Thus 10 feet of less, starting at the bottom, and the over 24 proceeded from the 20 feet from the center, 90% over 10 to 24 feet, 75%, and then 66% at 10 feet or less from the truck center. And now I'm going to take a break, guys. We'll come back. Hello. Hello. Alright, 115 gravity. Although not a separate unit that emphasized because the significant shipper of the center of gravity figures importantly significant to the loading of the flat part, regardless of design. The problem is to balance the car and lining up the loading, the center of the gravity, the center of the closest possible. Perhaps you may think of some of the equipment can be not balanced cannot be balanced in the center of the flat car. For example, crane with boom. To ensure the loads are balanced on the car, the AAR established for the loading items that are not centered on the car, whose length is less than the distance between the truck center. The diagram of the next page shows the location on the relation of the diagram. The next page shows the center of gravity and the relationship to the ratio of the load weight limit. For example, load weight 75% of the stencil load weight is load weight load limit. If your shipment weighs 87% of the load, its center of gravity could be situated anywhere in the middle of the 1/7 of the deck in between. But trucks notice center. Notice that the load weight increases rather than the load center of the gravity must be truck center. When the center of the gravity load weighing on the only 87% of the load may be placed anywhere in the load on 1/7. The deck between the truck center and the center of gravity, 90% of the load is limited in 1/10 of thus. Nine twentieths plus 9/20ths equal 18/20ths. 20 divided by 18/20ths equals 2/20ths, 1/10. Note that the sketch below illustrates the crane and how the boom might be loaded. Assume that the crane weighs 75,924 pounds, that the 50-foot flat car load limit of a 114,000-pound truck center at the 40 feet apart divided the load limit gives you the percentage load limit of 75,9,240 plus 11,000 plus 1,114. It equals 666, or 6 remainder of 66.6%. As you now know the previous diagram, the center of the gravity at 66.6%. Loads must not be closer than either the truck center of 1/4 of the distance. Between the truck centers, an example, 1/4 of the 40 feet of the distance between the truck centers is 10 feet. The train is the sketch properly located. Yes, the center of the gravity is more than 10 feet, either the truck center. 116 rule number 5, location of the load of all the cars. The weight of the load on the truck must exceed 1/2 the stenciled load. The weight is in doubt. It must be verified, and by weighing, an additional load may be located, and the weight along both sides of the car is equal about entire length of the load. When the load, shape, and weight in both combined and possible distributes equally crosswise of the car, suitable ballast must be used to equalize the weight. 117. The AAR rules for DoD material. As mentioned in paragraph 111 in the section 6 of the AAR rules governing the load commodities on the top of the car, specifically how the material will be loaded on the top of the car. Section 6 of the drawing illustrates how individual items to be secured on the car. Drawings cover particular equipment in several categories, such as artillery, boats, containers, vehicles. Among vehicles are 1/4 ton trucks or 1.5 ton trailers, tanks. Similar vehicles are around 60,000 pounds. Also include sections of more material chart to give dimensions and various wood and metal blocking parts, specifically in drawings pattern 16 inches and wooden chock shown in sketches and commonly specified wheel vehicles. Of the AAR. For the foregoing, you can see the military works closely with the AAR. Nothing may be shaped over the commercial rail. Because it's least strong under the wire called for the rules. The Army requirements depend on and meet the least and minimum standards of the AAR. The Army requirements of rail shipment does not appear to the single handbook. Instead, particular aspects of the subject covered in the separate publications as field manuals, technical bulletins, load drawings for specification, special equipment, and subparagraphs to find out except for the more commonly appropriate by Army publications on loading the railway cars. Here is a figure of a quarter-ton truck and its bracing and blocking cleats and tie downs. Field manuals. Among field manuals treating the subject with load ring rail cars, the FM 10110 Staff Officer Field Manual. Organizational technical logistics is use of the planning of the rail movements, given the characteristic of the use, foreign rails, stock unpowered railway cars, data, moving distribution divisions, railway divisions using what kinds of cars needed, vehicle loading tables, Field Manual 5515. Transportation reference data also contains a great deal of railroad loading information tablature for using the planning. Technical manuals of TM. Almost every item in the equipment General Army used today contains a specific loading and blocking instruction. In the last chapter of the TM 923202 This is 932-320-21120 of the 5-ton truck. For examples, you will find instructions. Shipping vehicle figure the 1/6 for producing the founding of the TM illustrates the prescribed method of blocking a 5-ton car. Note the chocks against the wheels. Other TMs contain information on the transportability of the particular pieces of equipment. One of these examples is 552-330-207201, transportational guidance of a semi-trailer stake, a 12-ton wheeltron, M127A1C, and M172A2C, including the significant in transportation safety guidance, movement, semi-trailer, various modes of transportation, as well as site evaluation, drawings, characteristics, precautions, observed shipments, semi-trailers, and rails, blocking restraints and billows and restraints, and the details diagram and wheel tie-downs and diagrams. Here's the tie-downs and the cleats for the truck. Technical Manual 55601, Loading Car Procedures, especially valuable transportation, offers the guidance of the appendix of loading rules, including patterns, diagrams, securing from the more common to the most not so common. On the railway car's detailed description, tie-down materials needed, the vehicle covered photographs that illustrate certain methods, the 68 instructions accompanying it to TM 55601 are reproduced. Vehicle, the cargo containers under the notation operational. This means they are here is or 1/4 ton trailers. Instructions, shipping data of a half-ton cargo trailer. Types of loading windshield. Each of the reductions are according to the AR 2201. The designated piggyback applies only to the data of the cargo trailers that are removed and inverted, placed on the top of the bottom of the trailer. D. The local drawings in paragraph among the many new items developed in the AR, the shipping specifications must be established in our missiles and support equipment. The XM48 Sharpel full-track self-propelled missiles example, responsible for specifying equipment to load base in the U.S. Army Material Command, whose Savannah Army Depot requires appropriate drawings with loading and bracing diagrams. The Chaparral supports maintenance shop figure 19. Notice that the E figure in them refers to the AAR manual. Applicable loading rules. Also note that the box of the upright corner of the figure 19 showing the approval of the mechanical divisions of the AAR signature authorized office of the MTMTS.